Former Pittsburgh Steelers rival Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, Cincinnati Bengals legend, jumped on the Nightcap podcast. I think he, at this point, is co-host of the Nightcap podcast with Shannon Sharp, and talked about the Steelers quarterback situation. He tossed out Russell Wilson, and he said, look it, he's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know, because a little birdie has told him. Didn't elaborate much more, just said he has said it before, he'll say it again. A little birdie has told him that Russell Wilson is headed to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, there's a lot to dive into when it comes to Chad Johnson, what he says on the Nightcap podcast, but for this time, it's Russell Wilson, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You heard that. You didn't hear much more because it was a one-sentence take. There was nothing else to go with it. What were your thoughts?
My thought is, damn, who is Chad Johnson's little birdie, man? That was my biggest question, is I want to know who Chad Johnson's sources are. I mean, I don't doubt that there's still people in the league that he talks to, but how many of those people are in NFL front offices? How many of those people are with the Broncos? How many are they with the Steelers? You know, like, I really, really wonder what the source is here. I mean, your first thought is to think, would Russ work in Pittsburgh? You know, there's like a weird situation with the contract. It's I feel like from a football perspective it'd work, and then I kind of caught myself and I was like, wait, is this even real? Like, is this like even like a? So I don't know. I think my first question is just, how does Chad Johnson know this, and why would Chad Johnson know this, and why would anyone who knows for certain tell Chad Johnson this? You know,
There's so many sides to this. So many slices of this orange right here, or this pie. I don't know why I used an orange in this analogy.
Orange has slices here.
That's true. We'll start with the Chad Johnson as a whole, and what in recent weeks I try to listen to the Nightcap. I try to listen to every podcast. Like, I'm a podcast guy. I don't watch television. I feel like if I'm listening to a podcast, there's a part of me that's like studying the game a little bit. I don't know. I'm weird. But I try to listen to the Nightcap podcast. A couple of weeks ago, this might have been a week ago, honestly, very recently, the last thing that came out of Chad Johnson's mouth that made national headlines on his podcast was that he was a scout for the Las Vegas Raiders. And, I mean, maybe he is, maybe he's not. Nick, you got a computer in front of you. We're going to need some answers here. But just when I heard that, I was like, maybe he's not. My first reaction was, And then he says this one, and I go, okay, so if you are a scout for the Raiders, maybe this has credit. If you're not a scout for the Raiders, can we believe anything that you are officially reporting on? When it goes to both sides here, how does Russell Wilson know that he's going to the Pittsburgh? He's still on the Denver Broncos. Like, the Steelers can't call him and be like, hey, Russ, we are big fans, very interested in you. When you are a free agent, we got a contract set in stone for when you go, but we got to wait until that's tamper. You are not allowed to do that in the NFL. So how these two sides have come to an agreement well before anything has happened, I don't know. But I don't know. Maybe Russell Wilson's just like, dude, the second I hit, I'm calling Pittsburgh, and I'm saying I'm going there for free.
And I'm making sure that Chad Johnson knows.
Yeah, and
like,
Chad's
he's
the guy.
First guy that I'm.
I don't talk to any of my former teammates, Richard Sherman, Marshawn Lynch, any of those guys, Pete Carroll, none of them. Do you want to know who my boy is? Chad Johnson. I don't know about that one. Nick, is this dude a scout?
No, looking at the administration page for the Las Vegas Raiders, Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, it's nowhere to be found under the scouts, the nutritionist, or even the cheerleaders. He's not there.
Nice.
I'm sure that's just a clerical error. I'm sure that's being updated, and they're just working on his staff profile right now. Yes. I'm sure it's coming. That's exactly
what I'm saying there. It takes time. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they had their former, I think it was football analyst, that just recently made known that he was hired a couple weeks ago. He was on there in September. So it takes time for sides to meet, and maybe the Raiders, they do it backwards. They announce it, and then it takes a while for the website to update. Either way, Russ to Pittsburgh, this one's weird. Let me ask this. Is it weird if it wasn't Chad Johnson coming up with this report saying Russell Wilson's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, is the other side of it weird? Like, is it weird to just say Russ and the Steelers and maybe they mix?
No, I don't think so. I mean, veteran guy. I feel like he had some success towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
In Denver, and I think he would go to an arguably a more talented offense with some better weapons. So I think from a football perspective, it's not the craziest idea in the world. I'm not really sure. I don't think I have a good idea of how the contract situation works. Like,
I think he's guaranteed $30 million over the next 3 years, and then the Broncos eat $86 million in dead money, so maybe that goes to Russ. I don't know, but I think up front it's at least $30 million.
Right, but just like, I mean, it was $86 million of, I think, 200, and so it was like close to a $300 million contract, right? Like how, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. The price tag does look a little hefty, but I mean, that's what you pay for like premium quarterback play, especially when you have a veteran like this. Is Russ still the same guy? Like, I kind of don't know what to believe about Russ at this point, you know?
Yeah.
Like, is he 2022 Russ where he just is bad? Is he like over the hill, or is he kind of second half of 2023 Russ? I'm not really sure yet, but I don't know. I feel like he could do well in Pittsburgh. It's not the worst quarterback idea we've seen thrown out this offseason. But I just, yeah, I guess the football part of it, I'm more on board with it than I was, I think, when I first kind of heard the idea of Russ to Pittsburgh being floated. I'll put it that way.
When Chad Johnson tosses it out there and you go, all right, well, it's a done deal. Your brain immediately starts going, all right, let's break this down here for a second. I agree. I think that once you get into the football side of it, it's not a bad move. And I think money-wise, if it works, like that's Russell Wilson has won a Super Bowl. The dude's been to 9 Pro Bowls. He's done things in the NFL where you think, okay, look, maybe he could turn it on a little bit and work with what he's got in Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers wide receiver core is better than the Broncos wide receiver core. I think the Steelers running game is stronger than the Broncos running game. I think that he's got options there. Didn't have to bounce around coaches. I mean, I feel like Sean Payton hated him from the second he walked in the door. He was like, yeah, we're done here. There's nothing worth hanging on to. I think money-wise, it's gotta work out. Like, what would you sign Russ to? Like, if it was a clean slate, and again, the contract is weird, but I don't think the Steelers would have to grab any of the money that the Broncos lose. Would you consider Russ for like anywhere from like 30, we'll say right around that 30 million a year mark?
That is tough. I mean, obviously you're not signing him to a bunch of years, but like, that feels like money I would throw at, if I'm going to go that all in on a quarterback, I feel like a Kirk Cousins type would be a better bet, a safer bet for that kind of money. And I know Kirk would be more money, but I don't know, kind of in for a dime, in for a dollar. Like, I'm not going to half-ass a massive quarterback signing like, Russell Wilson, like, I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, if I'm going to take a swing as big as that, I'm going to do it on a guy like Cousins, who I'm maybe a little bit more sure in, even if it costs me a little bit more money.
I agree. I think if Kirk, look, if your options are Russ for 30, 35 mil and your options for Kirk are 35, 40, you're going 35, 40. Like, you come up with that 10, just, change TJ Watt's signing or contract into a signing bonus. There's $10 million. You're totally fine. You're floating. No worries whatsoever. Again, and the salary cap's a myth. It's not a real thing. So I think that you could come up with this money no matter what. I think Russ is, like, I think Mason Rudolph is still like the most realistic option. I think Russ finds himself to be a realistic option for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know how realistic, but compared to some names that we have tossed out there and will continue to toss out there, like, I'm signing Russell Wilson before I'm signing definitely Ryan Tannehill. And I'm not saying that's more realistic, but I think if the Steelers are looking for, I think Ryan Tannehill has the connection to the Steelers because of Arthur Smith, but I think that that's the only connection you have. I think if you dive into the, they're trying to win a Super Bowl, Russell Wilson is, like, he's 10 times a better option than Ryan Tannehill is. Or I saw Gardner Minshew the other day. I was like, look, I love Gardner Minshew. I think that dude's awesome. Not as a football player, but just as I would show up day one. I would hope, if it was Gardner Minshew, I would hope the entire offense shaved mustaches. Arthur Smith, just everybody, Najee Harris, everybody's rocking a mustache. And I just think that that's how the Steelers should play football. And I would love that. But when it comes to the play, I just don't think that like, you're trying to raise the bar. That doesn't raise the bar. I think Russell Wilson does raise the bar. I think you got an opportunity there. Do you think Russell will, if he did end up in Pittsburgh, Do you think that that is a guy that could be the jug? You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to beat Patrick Mahomes. At this point, that's the only goal of anybody in the AFC is you have to get through the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the AFC. And I think that's where your bar had, like, that's when everybody talks about it. When they talk about Kenny Pickett, they talk about, is Kenny Pickett going to beat Patrick Mahomes? Is Ryan Tannehill going to be able to beat Patrick Mahomes? All these guys. Is Russell Wilson a guy that maybe could?
I think he could. I don't know. That seems like kind of an unfair standard to hold anyone to when, like, Lamar Jackson's not beating Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen's not beating Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, so, like, I don't know if I'm judging it against that, but I think Russ could beat him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think so. Because I also think part of it is, like, the Chiefs' defense was really good. I don't know. Like, can he beat the Chiefs' defense? And I feel like that's the bigger question. And I think he could. I don't know. I think the combination of, Russ in Pittsburgh, like, it's not Russ versus Mahomes. It would be Steelers versus Chiefs. And I think the Steelers would have a complete enough team with Russ playing quarterback, to be capable of beating the Chiefs. I'll put it that way.
Would you go Russell Wilson over Mason Rudolph?
We'll
go Russ for eliminate money. Both of them are cheap enough where it makes sense for the Steelers.
Oh, I'd take Russ. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
I appreciate what Mason did, but I don't know. Russ seems like more of a sure thing to me.
Yes, I agree. I don't think you're taking a shot on Russ, and I also don't think, I don't think there's any, like, Russell Wilson shows up, he's your starting quarterback. Like, that's that's all you're doing, and I think you feel good about that. So I agree. There's another name that was tossed out there that I think makes way less sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This one, like the Chad Johnson thing, hilarious. I'm glad that we got to, poke fun at it a little bit, find out that he wasn't an actual scout for the Las Vegas Raiders, at least as of not right now.